Well, Dr. Rosenberger, why don't we start with you just talking about your background? I think you said your family had been in Georgia a long time, and why don't you just talk a little bit about your family, where you came from originally?
Well, my family, which is my wife Melody and son Rich, grandson, have been in Ackworth. But my parents were third generation Californians.
Oh, okay.
And so I was a war baby. I was born right at the start of World War II. And we traveled from airbase to airbase to airbase. And California, New Mexico, Texas, Arkansas.
Okay, so you grew up
Kept
in
going east.
California then.
I grew up in California. Went to
Okay.
school out there and we did water sports, and winter sports, and
Uh-huh.
as a family, a lot of great experiences there.
Okay. You know, your father was in the military?
Well, he was a physician, but in the military, so
I see.
worked at hospitals.
Okay, so you're the second generation to be in the medical field then?
Well, the third, really.
The third? So your grandfather was also a
Yes, sir.
physician? Well, you didn't have any choice, did you, on what you were going to do?
Well, I just grew up interested in medicine.
Uh-huh.
I loved science and chemistry
Uh-huh.
and physics, and I just seemed to gravitate toward the biological sciences.
Mm-hmm. What year were you born?
41.
41, okay. And so right, exactly, World War II.
Yeah, two months later.
And say that again?
2 months after I was born, we were at war.
Oh yeah, right. So, so your father was which branch was he in?
The Army Air Corps.
Okay, and so you traveled with him to the different bases.
All
the
the
family
different-
traveled.
Right.
Okay, but talk a little bit about what your recreation that you were mentioning a little bit earlier. You like to be out in the great outdoors. It
I
sounded
do.
like.
Well, swimming was my sport, and water polo, and the beach. We were close to the beach, and surfing, water skiing,
Mm-hmm.
just boating, sailing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we learned to ski as a family,
Uh-huh.
and we would go with another family, travel around to different places. But
Yeah.
a lot of good memories.
I think I saw that something that people may not know about you. You were a swimming instructor.
Yes, sir.
Talk about that.
Well, it was a lot of fun. These little kids that couldn't swim, and to get them to swim, learning to swim was
Mm-hmm.
very rewarding, and because they felt super when they could swim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was a lifeguard at various places.
So you spent the 40s and 50s in California all
Yes,
that
sir.
time,
Mm-hmm.
and why don't you just talk a little bit about it? Where you went to school and those kinds of things.
Well, I attended Stanford University,
Mhm.
and then University of Southern California School of Medicine.
Uh-huh.
And I decided to go east and went to the largest medical center in the world, the Texas Medical Center, to do the internship residency.
Mhm.
And
From California going to Texas
Yeah,
is
it
going
was-
east.
a change.
Right.
Everything's bigger and better.
Uh-huh.
So I was already a doctor when I got to Vietnam.
Yeah.
And so,
Okay. So you go into some special training with the military?
yes, they had a aviation medicine program.
Okay.
And it's a little different. Aviators have different problems.
Uh-huh.
And so we had to go to school to learn about that. And the survival school, all that.
Okay, but you're in the Army, but you're training for aviation.
Aviation medicine.
Aviation
It's
medicine,
kind of a specialty in itself.
I guess. Okay.
And it was to treat pilots and the aviation community.
Mhm.
The the mechanics and everybody that's at the air base.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And which air base was it?
well, it was in the Delta, at Vietnam, Mekong Delta on the Mekong River.
Yeah.
And it was just an airfield
Okay.
all by itself. And,
So what year are we talking about now?
this would be 69.
69 that you go to Vietnam,
Right.
and
It was right after the Tet Offensive, and
yeah,
so everybody's a little nervous.
I guess so.
But
And so you're in the Mekong River Delta at just at an air base,
yes,
and so you're treating everybody that's there, I guess.
right. And even Vietnamese would come to our clinic. We would treat them, and
What kind of clinic was it? The military's running, I guess. How big is it, and how primitive, I guess I should say, is it?
well, it was a building that we had 3 doctors there,
Mm-hmm.
and then we had medics that worked under us. We each had 5 medics, and they would all see patients, and we would see patients.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of Vietnamese would come to our clinic,
Mm-hmm.
as well as our Army guys.
Yeah.
So
Let's see if we can.
we would go out to the convents and treat orphans
Wow.
because they had nobody. It was very sad, all these orphans, no parents.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so there was a lot of community stuff that we did
Sure. How long were you in Vietnam?
for a year.
Mm-hmm. So even the
And-
military, it's 1 year and you're gone?
Right. Or we had a 6-month thing. There were 6 months where I was at a MASH hospital. We did a lot of surgery, gunshot wounds.
Oh my goodness.
And this AK-47s made these huge exit wounds, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So our job was to go in and cut out all the dead stuff, and they'd have a big tunnel through their arm, and
Wow.
it was very sad.
I guess so. Yeah.
So 6 months of gunshot wounds.
Yeah. 6 months of gunshot wounds, but you're also dealing during your year there with the local people and their health problems.
Yes.
What kind of health problems, I guess, were typical for the people?
Vietnamese. We treated the Viet Cong too. They would come in the black pajamas. We would treat them, and then the MP would be with them, you know. So as soon as we got done with them, the MP would take them away to whatever.
So they had their battlefield wounds also, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
And the people had a lot of parasites. It seemed to be the biggest problem. Intestinal parasites.
These are like peasants or farmers?
Just the regular people, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And most people were just regular people, rice farmers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. What kind of facilities did you have? The modern, up-to-date equipment, or you just?
Well, they were Quonset huts.
That's what I was wondering, if there was Quonset huts.
Kind of like, you know,
Yeah.
on TV, the MASH
Mm-hmm.
had little Quonset huts, and with OR, just huge OR. That's basically what we were.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the Chinook would bring in 24, 25 casualties, and they'd unload them, and then we'd be busy for.
Mm-hmm. How close were you to the battlefields? I know the battlefields were all over creation when you've got a guerrilla war taking place. But I guess my question is, how dangerous was it to be working where you were working?
The MASH hospital was next to an Air Force base and a Navy base.
Mm-hmm.
So we saw a lot of the Navy little gunboat fellas would come in, and it was pretty safe right around the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
But the perimeter, you know, the Viet Cong at night, you could see we'd get mortared at night, maybe 4 nights a week.
Mm-hmm.
So we had sandbags all over our sleeping quarters, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so you never quite knew what was coming.
Sure. you got two bronze stars.
Yes, sir.
Talk about that.
Well, I don't know what it was for. I didn't receive them until I got to Atlanta.
Okay.
And so
But for
I just
meritorious
did my job.
service.
I didn't really do anything heroic.
Mm-hmm.
I did volunteer to go on some missions.
Did you really?
They were pretty exciting up into Cambodia, where we weren't supposed to be,
Okay.
according to the president. No, we're not in Cambodia.
Oh, but you
we were.
Mm-hmm.
These fire bases, so loud, unbelievably loud.
Yeah. It's not long from there until you're in Ackworth.
It was. We had the Army hospital. We had a facility up here at the lake. And so a group of us would come up and water ski and do boating and just loved it. And I got to know people in Ackworth. Met Dr. Cobble and talked to him, and he was very welcoming. Said, "Sure, come on up." And when I got out of the military, I had to decide whether to go back to California, where my family was and where I kind of knew the landscape, or stay here. And I'd worked around different cities, Conyers and Cordele and places in Georgia.
Oh.
But this area, there's something about the people that's so special up here. And I joined a 8-man group in Woodstock because I didn't have enough money to start a practice here. But within a few months, I had talked them into opening an office in Ackworth, and the bank building was available.
So you're in the bank building.
We were in the bank building. Bob Lambert was the other guy that came over. We'd split the day and go to Woodstock and back to Ackworth.
Okay. So you and Dr. Lambert were the two together in practice here?
Right. He was a surgeon, did a lot of office surgery. And I got on the staff at Wellstar, Kennestone. And so I split the day, about a third of the day here, a third of the day at Kennestone, a third of the day at Woodstock, South Cherokee County, for about 25 years. And
you were all three places each day?
every day.
Wow.
Sometimes twice that. And just stayed here, and then between here and Kennestone. So that simplified things quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you've been very much involved in the community over the years. Why don't you talk about service on the Downtown Development Authority? How did that come about?
Well, I had a little more time, and I got more interested in things, the downtown, and joined the DDA, and it was about the early teens, and KSU had done a big study at the business school about what did Ackworth need. And they decided we needed events. Number one. And number two, landscaping on Main Street. So the tree commission was trying to do that.
Yeah. Do you know who did the study? You say in the Coles College of Business. You remember? You don't know?
I don't remember the names.
Of
the individuals.
But they did a study and really about how to revive downtown Ackworth.
Exactly. Right. It was not quite turned around at that. It was sort of like a battleship that was part way around.
Okay.
But we needed some more help. And the events, the Art Fest, they mentioned downtown. We'd been having things at the lake, Love the Lake, and Smoke on the Lake.
Yeah.
Events downtown we really weren't doing. So Taste of Ackworth, Turkey Chase, all these things, Oktoberfest. Got started, and before the amphitheater was finished, and things started moving to the amphitheater.
Um, Now, so the arts festival, part of that?
Yeah, that came about. Somebody knew the Splash people that had started the Dunwoody Art Festival,
Mm-hmm.
and went to them to see if they'd be interested in starting an art festival in Ackworth.
Mm-hmm.
So fortunately they did, and it's been a big success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, what makes Ackworth special for you, you think? What's kept you here for 50 plus years?
Well, it's the caring, giving people here, most special people. And, you know, it starts with this phenomenal city government we have here, the best in Georgia. And the great mayor, Tommy Holligood, and city manager, great city council, and then all the commissions, and
Mm-hmm.
wonderful churches, spiritual leaders,
Mm-hmm.
and the groups, ABA and Kiwanis, Optimus, Rotary, and the nonprofits. My goodness, what a community!
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievable,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all on the same page. It seems like,
Mm-hmm.
but there's this caring spirit where everybody's helping everybody else
Mm-hmm.
that I like.
Yeah. Well, what haven't we talked about that you'd like to tell us?
Just thank you for the privilege of being here
Uh-huh.
all these years. And
Well, it's
thank
amazing.
my wife she was my better half and
Uh-huh.
was with me the whole way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's amazing all that you've done. I think that's.
It's amazing what you've done.
Well, appreciate you coming and letting us talk to you today, and appreciate all that you do.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Scott.